We are live, frozen, but live. Back with another choppy episode of your wildest fantasy football show. We hopefully will be able to get this episode as we have been able to trudge through the rest of our weekly episodes this week, just pushing through. As if you hit a wall in your life and you say, oh, I really don't want to do this today. I really don't want to get up and work out today. I just want to sit in and eat Dunkaroos all day. Happy shout out to the Dunkaroos crowd. They don't sponsor, but maybe they should.
That'd be great. Great.
Sometimes it's just easier to do that. And I guess sometimes it's fine to reward yourself with that break every once in a while. But some days you have to say, we're going to prevail. And
Amen.
Even though I don't want to do this, I'm going to do it because that's just what needs to be done. Likewise, we are here today giving you the, I would say, wildest fantasy information on the internet and fantasy landscape, even perhaps. Yeah. And to start with that, I suppose we should talk about kind of the game last night. What would you call that game last night?
I would call it not a game for sure. Atlanta's offense has looked non-existent in the past two games. Their whole team has kind of just dissipated on both sides of the ball these last 2 weeks. It's been tough to watch. I think they have a combined 3 points in the past 2 weeks against New England and what did they play last or 2 weeks ago? And Dallas, teams that like defenses aren't exactly super scary. Like you can score on these guys, so a little discouraged. But yeah, it wasn't exactly a game for Atlanta. No one got above double digits, so I'm not classifying it as a football game for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched last night, you could see that there wasn't much Atlanta could do to protect Matt Ryan. So not or free up any holes for the running backs either. So there wasn't much to be done in fantasy purposes or in regular purposes just because that offensive line wasn't doing anything. And credit to New England for being able to create so much pressure. But it's really tough to generate any fantasy production. I mean, the Falcons literally didn't have one player in double digits.
None.
That's kind of impressive.
None.
I tried to inspire them last night and say, I've never seen a good game that the Falcons have been a part of. Actually, that's not true. 28-3 was a great game. But there's very few games that I have seen that the Falcons have, made good games. And this, I was hoping that would bring out the best in them. Did not. I think it might hurt their feelings a little bit, which resulted in this. And to the Atlanta Falcons and all of you that had to sit through that and watch that, I apologize. I thought my motive was good.
Right.
It just didn't work out the way that I'd hoped, and I'm still learning. I'm trying to be a leader, but I think every day one thing that leaders do is they take what happens, keep it right up in the Rolodex, and say, hey, I'll remember that for next time. I'll remember not to try to use, I guess, like negative motivation for the Falcons in the future.
So I just need to swallow something here real quick. I want to apologize to anyone who listened to me about starting Wayne Gallman. Got you negative points, not a negative 0.3 points. Never a good look for wherever you started him. If you did, hopefully you didn't. I was dead wrong. I thought they were going to use him.
Train's coming through.
I was dead wrong. Definitely thought.
Unfortunately, Wayne Gallman did not come through.
Wayne Gallman did not at all. They gave him a grand total, if you can believe this, of 2 offensive snaps. 2. So I thought they were going to use him kind of like a Cordell Patterson or Mike Davis role and kind of give Mike Davis Cordell Patterson or vice versa. They did not. They did not do that in the slightest. And I was wrong. Called it wrong. Had a feeling I was right. Was wrong. So I apologize to all you lovely listeners out there.
Well, I think it says a lot about your character that you would go out and just admit that.
Right.
So I think a lot of people were wrong in this game about pretty much
Oh,
everything.
everything,
It
man.
doesn't matter what running back you were to pick, you would not have been happy. Yeah, Mike Davis also did not get much going. 3 carries for 1 yard and 3 receptions for 20 yards, totaling in 5.1 fantasy points. Just not a good day for this whole offense.
No.
And I think it just highlights how important, one, how good this Patriots team is, that they were able to generate that much pressure and just kind of like run all over this team, which we will get to in a minute.
Right.
But it also says how important Cordero Patterson is to this offense. I believe they said he is day to day. I don't know if I read that wrong or if I'm talking about someone else. All the
Cordell
information
Patterson.
at times blurs together.
Cordell Patterson. I haven't seen anything.
Okay, then I might have just said that out of nowhere. And if I did, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what can really be taken away from this game other than Cordero Patterson is a very important piece. I guess the other thing you can talk about on the Falcons side is something that I don't know what your feelings have been on Kyle Pitts this year, but I've been saying for a while, I think the hype train on him is not talent-wise, but fantasy-wise a little overrated.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not been productive. He's had 2 20-point weeks back-to-back, and outside of that, he's had 2 other double-digit games.
Right.
He's just not – it's not his fault, I don't think. He's getting matched up with the number 1 corner week in and week out because they have nobody else on that offense. But I don't think you want to be in the Kyle Pitts pool right now. I feel like he's along the lines, and maybe I can speak more from my own experience here, having a couple shares of Noah Fant. I feel like he's way more talented. I don't want to say way more talented because I think Noah Fant's pretty talented as well. But he's like a unique talent, but he just doesn't – he's not going to be able to produce consistent tight end numbers because he's facing the number 1 corner every week. I don't want him on my team because of that.
It's tough. Bill Belichick came out and said Kyle Pitts is a special athlete, which translates to he's not going to catch the football. So kind of expected a low game for Kyle, but you're right. He has 4 double-digit weeks so far this year, and they're all been spread out except for 2 back-to-back 20s. It's tough. I think you can definitely – he's not a guy you have to leave in your lineup week in and week out. And especially if Cordell Patterson's not there, especially if Calvin Ridley's going to continue to miss time, then he's not a guy who you need to leave in your lineup. He's not, he's not a Travis Kelce. He's not a Tyler Conklin. Besides those 2 studs, I really don't see anyone else that you need to leave in there week in, week out. But no, Kyle Pitts is not someone that you have to leave in, but he can be a streamer if he's in a good matchup. I think there's certain teams in the league that he can expose because he is just an extremely talented tight end.
I'd like to hear what you have to say about this idea. I think Kyle Pitts just name-wise has a lot of value. And I think you might be able to trade him because people are like, oh, it was Kyle Pitts. He was the 4th pick in the draft. You see the talent and just the athletic ability of him. And also the ranking that's kind of inflated by those 2 20-point weeks. People go, oh, Kyle Pitts. I'd plug and play him at my tight end every week. And you could get maybe a wide receiver and a lesser tight end like a Dan Arnold or a Tyler Conklin or just a less of a name guy that will put up the same amount of value. I think that there are some tight ends that's name inflates their value a bit, and I think Kyle Pitts is one of those guys, especially when tight end replaceability, when it comes to anybody outside of Travis Kelce, really, like, I think you can replace pretty much anybody. Maybe not consistently. Nobody's going to put up the same consistent value as a George Kittle or a Mark Andrews.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you can stream week to week and you find the right guy every week, I think you're going to get close to the same value of any other tight end besides Kelsey. So, like, I would rather trade the name of Pitts and get somebody that less would expect to put up decent numbers and gain a little bit of value from that.
Right. With you.
On the New England side, let me get order here. I mean, they ran the ball well. Nobody really put up great fantasy numbers, though. Most of what we saw was from the defense, putting up
Right.
26, monster performance if you had them. And then Nick Folk, who's been actually an unreal kicker all year. As far as the offensive production, I think there's a lot more here than the numbers suggest. As far as fantasy wise, these running backs had a really good game. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with how the running back production was split, and seeing that Ramondre Stevenson was getting the majority or got 2 more carries than Damian Harris.
Right. He got 2 more carries, but Harris got 3 more plays. Both of them were out snapped by Jacob Johnson. I think it's by committee. Stevenson.
Jacob Johnson, I want to just point out,
Yeah, he's a
is their
fullback.
fullback and does
He still got
not
he doesn't touch the ball.
does
So I'm
not
just
get
letting you
many
know.
touches, but he is a big part outside of fantasy, a big part of that offense in getting those guys the yardage that they got. Like, if you watched him yesterday and watched that whole offensive line, they were just running people over.
Yeah, no, I feel like he is the giveaway that they're going to run the football. I mean, when he's out there, it's just kind of like running behind this man. But no, I think Stevenson, he outperformed, but I think, it's a split back there. I didn't think it was going to be like this. I thought Harris was going to have a little bit bigger of a part than Stevenson. But again, when you're playing Atlanta and you're up, early, you don't need to have your number one guy in. When you win 25-0, you don't need to be playing your best guy. So numbers to me are a little saturated, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that does play a big part of it. You see Ramondre Stevenson come in for a good portion of really the second half of that fourth quarter. I do think that it's committee now more than we thought it would be before this week. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm worried about Damian Harris going forward if I have him in fantasy. I am scared about that. And if you're able to find somebody who is willing to pay full price for him and what he has been, I would try to do that, but it might be a little too late for that at this point.
Yeah, at this point, you kind of missed the boat. Just like I feel like bigger name Mike Williams. Those owners missed the boat earlier on when he was putting up, wide receiver 1, like upper echelon, top 5 wide receiver weeks. But yeah, Harris is now looks squarely in a committee. Looking at the numbers, Stevenson looks to be slightly more explosive. They're seeing the same amount of targets out of the backfield. It's not looking good. It's looking back to be the committee that we know New England likes to be.
Yeah, I mean, and it can't not be. Like, we've seen the talent from Ramondre Stevenson. That's something that I talked about yesterday and saying, like, I don't think these backs are too differently separated. I don't think Damian Harris is by far the most talented back on this offense. I think They're both very good, and they will be used in whatever way will help the team the best. So expect both of them to have a role going forward. Is there anybody else you wanted to talk about in this game?
So I had a question. My question about the game is Jacoby Myers droppable?
It's an interesting one. He put up 7.9 in full point PPR. I think that's pretty inflating on his numbers. He has 5 or less catches since week 4, and is averaging under 10 yards per catch in all but one of those games. Has under 50 yards receiving in all of those games. I don't know who you're going to take a shot on. I think I would still keep him on the end of my bench unless there is maybe a little bit more high upside guy out there, like a Robbie Anderson or Brandon Ayuk, one of those big names that has been dropped that I think just has a little bit more upside. You know what Jacoby Myers is. You know he is that slot short yardage guy, and there's not much boom potential there unless he catches a touchdown, which we know has been hard to come by in his career. So I would probably say if there's an upside guy you want to go for, I don't hate dropping Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. It's an interesting guy to consider just because he has been so lackluster as of late. But just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah. Would you drop Jacoby Myers?
Not yet. He has 76 targets on the year. That is, it's something that you have to look at. But again, you can find higher upside guys probably. So I guess also this depends on the league that you're in. I'm going to keep him on the edge of my bench. Potential trade piece. He does have a nice floor, I think, of targets. And I feel like if he starts to bring in more of them, he's dropped a third of his targets so far on the year. So I think if he starts bringing in a couple more of them, it is going to be an easier day for him and a better fantasy numbers for sure.
Fair enough. New England does play Tennessee next, so it is a matchup that can be exploitable. This Tennessee, our defense has been tightening up a bit lately, though. Speaking of Tennessee, seamless transition here. Houston at Tennessee was the 1 o'clock game that we did not cover yesterday. Main thing here, Tennessee running backs. What do we expect to happen there? Are we going to play any of them? We talked yesterday about a similar situation in the Baltimore backfield and saying we're not trusting anybody. Do you trust anybody here in Tennessee in a very attractive matchup against the Houston Texans?
I don't know who I trust in Tennessee. I think I trust Foreman. I think I'm going to trust Foreman. I think he's going to be the guy back there. We've been seeing it 2 weeks in a row now that he is the most productive person out of that backfield. We both kind of were wrong about that. I thought it was going to be Nichols. You thought it was going to be Peterson. Both kind of miscalled that one. I think Brown has to perform. He is now their number one guy. He's going to have to start doing something. Henry's out. Jones is out. You need someone. This is his time to shine and show what he can be.
Yeah, I think if there's any matchup in which you want to trust a Tennessee running back, it would be against Houston. It's hard. I actually went back and forth on this during the week. I noticed. So, in full disclosure, I wrote a lot of these notes earlier in the week, and my notes on this game say that I wasn't going to trust anybody. And that's until I actually ended up putting Dante Foreman in my starting lineup for a team this week. So I think you're trusting one of these guys, not in a role to be your RB2 or something like that, but as a flex in a game where you expect Tennessee to run the ball a lot. That's still part of their identity, regardless of having Derrick Henry or not. We still want to run the ball a lot, especially with limited weapons on the outside. Only A.J. Brown there healthy. There are concerns, obviously. We haven't seen one of these guys over 50% of the snaps yet. Last week, nobody was over 35% of the snaps. So there's some worry there, but I'm still going with Deontay Foreman if I am to start one of them and pick one of them going forward. I think that he's just proven to be, so far, the most efficient back that they have.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, guy that we both, I think, are fans of, believe in Brandon Cooks. He plays on a crappy team.
Amen.
He doesn't have the best quarterback in the NFL, but he gets a lot of targets. And that's something that we talk about a lot is the volume. And that just we can't predict exactly what numbers that people are going to put up every week, but we can make expectations and assumptions based on their volume that they are more likely to have better weeks than other people. Brandon Cooks is one of those people. He just gets targeted a ton in this offense. Saw 13 targets last week. Didn't have the best week fantasy-wise. Only 8.6. 14 targets last week. Caught 6 of them for 56 yards. I just think he's a safe wide receiver too. And I would definitely start him this week.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks is definitely a guy I want on my roster. Just the pure number of targets that he gets is always encouraging. I do have a little name game for you, Kondo, on Brandon Cooks here. I want you to tell me if Brandon Cooks has more or less targets than these people. Does he have more targets than Marquise Brown?
Marquise Brown. Does he have more targets than Marquise Brown on the season or today or tomorrow?
On the season.
Sunday.
On the season.
My guess would be yes. He does have more targets than Marquise.
He does have more targets than Marquise Brown. Does he have more targets than Jalen Waddle?
I would say yes.
It's a tie, but both of these guys are tied. 84 for each of these guys. This one, it's a tricky one, Kondo. Does he have more targets than Deebo Samuel?
Deebo, no, because Deebo's like top. I know Deebo's one of the top guys in targets this year.
Deebo has 86 targets on the year. Brandon Cooks comes in at 8th with 84. So only 2 more targets for Deebo. But again, he's 8th in the league so far in terms of targets. Travis Kelce actually beating out both those guys in terms of targets. So, who knew a tight end would be that high? Yeah.
The people who drafted him 5th overall.
Congratulations on those 89 targets.
Yeah. That's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, this was the first year we saw people kind of buy into the tight end in the first round. I struggled to buy into it, but looking at it now, you see what Kelce is doing in comparison to every other tight end, and you're like, that strategy kind of makes sense now.
It does make sense, but it's so like seeing where he went above some guys he went above JT, number 1 running back in the league right now. It's just tough cooking out there.
Sure. Going into Cincinnati at Las Vegas. Do I have notes for this game? Good question. Okay. Well, I just had to flip my notebook over. T. Higgins has been quietly consistent, 13 plus in his last 3 and has 10 in all but 1 of his games played this year. Definitely feel free to flex, even though the Raiders have been a good secondary. Now, They did just get gashed for 400 yards. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, Vegas has they've been respectable in terms of the pass defense. So my question was kind of who do I trust in this for this game? Obviously, everyone trusts Mixon. That's like a give me. You always start Mixon. I think Chase is another guy that you have to start. Higgins, Boyd, Uzma. Like I don't know who you're starting.
I'm definitely starting Higgins. I
Mhm.
probably am avoiding everyone else.
Okay. I think I'm with you on Higgins. When healthy, he seems to deliver almost consistently.
And on the Raiders side, it was a bad week. I think bad week for Jacobs being down early to the Chiefs. I'm not sure that I love him this week either.
Mhm.
Seems like it is going to be, 50.5 over under. A lot of points expected to be scored here. I think you're rolling out there for sure. And when you're feeling good about his offensive usage and hoping that it's a touchdown and the offense in this game overall. But I'm not sure that this is his most efficient game. And I'm not sure that this is a game where Vegas is going to be running the ball a lot. They seem to slow down a bit from being when they were the top team in the AFC West. And I think that the Cincinnati Bengals team is a really good team that they're going to have to keep up with. And we've seen Kenyon Drake get involved a bit more. And especially in the passing game, like he seems to be a popular guy to go to.
Right. I mean, Cincinnati's 28th in terms of fantasy points allowed to the running back, so I'm a little bit more optimistic on Jacobs or Drake. But I'm not confident though, just because of how Kenyon Drake has been like kind of eating into Josh Jacobs a little bit. I don't know. He's not a guy who I'm overly confident in, but at the same time, like he has double digits every week, but week 10 against, Kansas City when he played. So I'm kind of feeling like you have to play him just because he seems to have that floor. But again, I'm not looking for a big week for Josh Jacobs.
Agreed. Kenyon Drake, is that a guy that you're looking to like target or add onto your team, or is he someone that you're saying second running back on his team? If he's going to go have success, he can kind of just have that happen on someone else's squad.
He can have it happen on someone else's squad. I think he just eats into it a little bit. But again, he's ignite when Josh Jacobs is out, he does perform well. I think it's a 20-point week or at least a couple double digits in there. So he is an interesting guy to keep an eye on, but he's not someone who you must have on your roster.
Agreed. I'm probably trying to stay away unless you know somebody like who wants him. If that's like something you're you're looking to just trade him off, and he's going for a low price, and you think you can get some value for it. But outside of that, I am, trying to avoid getting Kenyon Drake or not seeking out a deal for him. The Bengals are a little bit weird on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the running backs. They are allowing the fifth most fantasy points to opposing running backs, but they're also allowing the eighth least yardage to opposing running backs.
Right. They're
Little
only
odd.
allowing 100 yards.
Yeah, little odd. And that's kind of goes to my Jacobs thing is that I think it's going to be more in the receiving game, which the Bengals have allowed 70 receptions and 90 targets to the running backs. We could see a big Kenyon Drake game and possibly sell high Kenyon Drake game here.
Right. Potentially.
Arizona at Seattle. Russell Wilson had an awful fantasy performance last week, 5 points, lost probably many people their fantasy weeks, most importantly. Maybe not most importantly, but among the important ones, He did lose me my fantasy week. In a tragic close call. Should I and several other fantasy managers out there trust Russell Wilson to right the ship this week against Arizona, who has not been friendly opposing fantasy quarterbacks?
I don't think this is the week you trust Russ, but at the same time, since I said that, Russell Wilson's going to go out there and drop 300 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. So, what do I know? But I don't love Russell Wilson this week. Not a guy who I think you must start, as especially as of late. The past 2 games he's played have been underneath 10 fantasy points. I mean, Mac Jones, who I think we both agree is not quite the quarterback of Russell Wilson, got 10 fantasy points, I think, almost consistently this year. So I think like you can find a guy who is going to have a much lower ceiling, but a better floor than Russ has been performing as of late, especially against Arizona, who has been looking good against in terms of fantasy points to quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a good day to sit him for a bench guy or just add someone off of waivers real quick.
I'm on the other side of this. I'm starting Russ. Not necessarily in that league because I have Jalen Hurts, but in most situations, I am starting Russ. He's going to be probably among my top 12 quarterbacks, I would say. I think that this Arizona defense has been good against the quarterback, but we talk a lot about divisional games being closer than necessarily other games and more unpredictable. I could see this game being a little bit more of a shootout. We did see them just give up a ton of points to Carolina last week. Some of that was due to the offensive lack of productivity, but I could see this being a get right game for Seattle and making it interesting with the Cardinals. I see this being a get right game for a lot of players on this offense. I like the Seattle receivers in this game. I like Russell Wilson in this game.
I mean, Arizona is allowing 206 passing yards a game, including the monster game that they just gave up last week to Carolina. I'm just a little bit more hesitant on Russ. If you're going to start him, obviously Russell Wilson he's been proven in the past that he can score you points. Earlier on this year, he was doing it. It's just that the last 2 healthy games he had, one when he got injured, one right when he came back, it just hasn't looked great. And Arizona is a tough team to throw against. But if you're going to take the risk, I think there's worse guys to take a risk on than Russell Wilson. So I'm not like hating on it, but I'm just like thinking that you can find a better guy on waivers who is going to produce for you this week than Russ.
Fair. As for Arizona, Kyler looks like he may make his return this week, although it would be without DeAndre Hopkins, who just got ruled out once again. If Kyler is to come back this week, do you expect him to pick up where he left off and expect this offense to pick up where they left off?
So where he left off was Green Bay with 2 picks, 9 fantasy points, 270 yards. So no.
So not a high bar.
The bar is set kind of low. I expect double digits from Kyler. I think that 9-point fluke was what it is. It's a fluke.
But you know what I mean. Like, do you expect
I think
this
he's
to be
going
the
to
high-flying offense that it was weeks prior?
I think it's going to be a little bit tampered if you're going to lose DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is a massive part of the team. And so I don't think like that goes away. Or I think it does go away a little bit, but I think Kyler, if he's going to be healthy, can make stuff happen. Obviously, he has the foot talent to scramble like 5 or 6 times a game, get you 40, 50 yards, kind of like Jalen Hurts has been doing. He's also an accurate passer. He has a plethora of options out there with James Conner, Kirk, Green, Moore, Ertz. Like, those guys are all capable pass catchers, and I think they can make it happen. So I think it's going to be a get right game. And Seattle is 31st in terms of fantasy points to the running back. So if, everything else fails, Kyler Murray is a fast human being. He can just get to the edge and pick up, 7 or 8 yards every single play and carry this team on his back.
Yeah, you're starting Kyler. Are you starting any of the pass catchers here? It's hard because we've seen Rondale Moore with Hopkins out. You're going Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, I feel like is the option that you're going. Actually, AJ Green in that mix as well, especially seeing the connection that AJ Green had with Kyler Murray when he was in there. So I think you're going away from Rondale Moore a little bit more. No pun intended there. And I don't even know if that was a pun. I think it was just more repetition.
Definitely
and you're leaning in the direction of AJ Green and Christian Kirk. I think they're both kind of like risky flexes that you can throw out there if you have some bye week Rams, bye week Broncos. But I don't know if you're taking the risk of the boom bust risk, I would say. There's a lot more floor in probably other places than the Arizona Cardinals offense. But there's definitely not the potential for an 18-point week as there's with both of those guys.
Right. Kirk is the only person to have above 50 targets on the year. And when we're going into, we just completed week 10, they haven't had a bye week, means he's the only guy getting roughly more than 5 targets a game. He's also the only guy to have, he has the most double-digit weeks. He has 3 weeks underneath double digits. That's it. So 7 games in the plus for you, as far as I'm concerned. Kirk's the guy I like the most. If I got to pick between the other two, it'd be Green over Moore. But Green's not a must-start for me, especially based off of how most teams are going to be constructed at this point.
So do you say that Kirk is a must-start?
If you're going to start one of these guys, it's going to be Christian Kirk. He's also the 20th ranked wide receiver on the season. So to pick up a guy below him, you'd have to look for a guy who's going to have the most potential. And Seattle has a good offense. They're going to have to, I think Arizona and them are going to have, a lot of balls being thrown at each other. And I think, especially with D-Hop out, those targets have to go somewhere. I think Christian Kirk can benefit from 1 or 2 of them. And especially if Kyler is a little bit more limited in his mobility, he's going to stay in the pocket and throw more, makes wide receivers a little bit more viable of an option this week. So Kirk he's a must-start wide receiver 2, definitely a flex for most teams.
I think I'm leaning AJ Green here just because of the red zone and like the big body guy and not having D-Hop, who kind of was that red zone target. I like AJ Green, I think a little bit more. I don't think that it's that big of a separation. Pretty close between the two. I also like Zach Ertz as a possible tight end here. If you have him, I talked about that last week, how I think Zach Ertz is a little underrated, being without D-Hop, who is obviously a red zone target for Kyler Murray. A lot of his production we talked about was inflated because of the touchdowns. I think Zach Ertz could be another red zone option as well. And we all know for tight ends, you just need a touchdown. That's kind of all you're hoping for from streaming tight ends or the guys outside of the top 3, 4, 5. Going to Pittsburgh at the Chargers, the Sunday night game. Chargers have been – we forgot Dallas. Dallas. At least I don't know how close to forgetting it is. Like, I don't know if I actually forgot it because I did realize it as soon as we forgot it.
Right. I'll say that you just nailed it right on the head, and we're just going to make a smooth transition to Dallas here.
Okay. So, obviously setting up for a great shootout here. Two prolific offenses. You have Kansas City making their way back after a monster game. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that up. Dallas, I don't think anybody would say they have the best defense. I think they've been pretty good at turning the ball over, but yardage-wise, I wouldn't say they have been the greatest. I think we're both hoping for a lot of points in this game. Is there any surprise starts that you would say? Because you're obviously starting like Dak, CD, Zeke.
Cooper.
Amari Cooper is going to be an interesting one that I think we are both pretty down on Amari Cooper and have been all season long. So who would you start from Dallas?
From Dallas, I would start Dak, Zeke, CD. I would start Cooper. I don't feel comfortable about Gallup. I like Schultz. I think there's a chance for a touchdown to be had for him. And I like Tony Pollard. So a little bit controversial that I'd be going Pollard over Gallup when Zeke is healthy. But I just think I think Pollard has a chance to get in there, get a couple passes out of the backfield, and make some magic happen like he can do because he's a very talented athlete back there.
I think that I don't know that I'm going Dalton Schultz because we saw Gallup kind of take away from him a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on your other tight end options. I think there are a lot of tight end options out there right now that I may rather go with. Definitely like a Dan Arnold or Tyler Conklin.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two pretty Matt Freiermuth. I think there's some other options that you can go with.
Yeah,
now. If it's him and Komet, that's a little bit tougher of a decision.
Right.
But I'm going to probably say Dak, Zeke, CD, and Cooper. And Cooper, I think I'm going in with the expectation of past years Amari Cooper. I'm going in with the expectation okay, Amari Cooper is either going to get me 4 points or 24 points. And I'm just hoping that he's on the boom side of that boom bust kind of situation that he's been in for the majority of this year.
Right. I mean, it's going to be, I think it's a good game for him to try to do it. Kansas City, you're going to have to throw to keep into the game. I mean, you have Zeke and Pollard, so obviously you could just run the ball back into existence. But I think they're going to try to let Dak air the ball out some.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a good mixture of both. Probably from both of these offenses.
Right.
Going to be interesting to see if CEH plays. It's not seeming too promising. Andy Reid said there's a good chance that he doesn't play this week, that they wait on him for another week. Or 2 more weeks because they have the bye next week. I guess that would raise the question of if CEH plays, if he doesn't play, you're obviously playing Darrell Williams. And if he does play, how confident do you feel rolling CEH out there with the coach not saying he's good to go, he'll be fine, he'll be ready?
I'm a little hesitant, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a down game for whichever running back is out there anyway. Dallas is a little bit better against the run or against, stopping opposing running backs from having good fantasy weeks. So I think it's going to be a down week no matter who is out there. But having your coach come out and say he's not confident that you're going to be back is always a negative sign in terms of positive reinforcement that us fantasy managers so desperately long for.
Yeah, and not what you want to hear from the head coach there. I would try, but again, if you have CEH, I don't know who else you feel more confident in. It's really hard to say I'm not starting my RB2 or potentially who I drafted as my RB1 in any circumstance if he's playing. So I guess it depends on your other options, but you're probably rolling him out there if he does play. And then I would say nobody else other than the usual suspects for the Kansas City
Right.
Chiefs, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill.
With you.
Now, on Sunday Night Football, Pittsburgh at the Chargers, unless we forgot any others.
Probably did, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's in the past. We like to look in the present and then move forward. Chargers are big favorites here, but they've also kind of skidded of late. They haven't been the Chargers that we've seen to start off the regular season. Will they figure it out? I mean, against a Pittsburgh defense that hasn't been what we normally associate with Pittsburgh defense.
I hope they can. I mean, you have a nice young quarterback in Justin Herbert. You have a very nice running back in Austin Eckler. You have one of the best wide receivers in Keenan Allen. I think that those three guys alone make you confident that this team can, turn it around. Obviously, with younger quarterbacks, they haven't quite figured out how to handle the league all the way yet. But Herbert seems to be doing an okay job at doing it so far. I think he just hit a little bit of a roadblock. Pittsburgh might be a tough challenge since Pittsburgh's good against the run. They're mediocre against the pass. I think he'll be able to squeak it by, and I think this could be the game that we kind of are like, oh, okay, they're back. They're back to being just this dominant offensive force out there.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused with this team. And we obviously have different opinions on Mike Williams. I just made a trade for Mike Williams, and we had a agreement about that. Well, no, I think you were a little bit more on the side of it, but throughout this show, we've had a lot of conversations about Mike Williams and me sticking with him a little bit more than you have been.
Right.
Now, we did have the episode morning Mike Williams earlier this week. So I guess this is it would be quite the resurrection if he was able to emerge from this. My take on it is the Chargers offense hasn't been good really, or been going off since Mike Williams has been less in the picture. Since he has not been as big of a part in this offense, there has been a noticeable difference in this offense. And I do think getting him in line for touches and targeting him can potentially unlock a lot for this offense. Now, the question is that just something that the offense has to get back to and say, okay, we need to feed him the ball more? Or is that something that defenses are like, yeah, they do better when they get this guy the ball, so we need to limit him, and that's what they've been doing for the past few weeks? I'm not sure. I just know that they look very different right now when Mike Williams is being limited.
I kind of am not with you. So Mike Williams, his two best games were Kansas City and Cleveland. Kansas City, they scored 30. Cleveland, they scored the famous 47, taking the over by themselves there. So besides the Cleveland game, they scored 20. Mike Williams went off week 1. Week 2 against Dallas, he scored 20 again, and Mike Williams went off. Week 4, they played the Raiders. They scored 28. Better than both those weeks. Mike Williams didn't go off. Baltimore, they put up 34. Mike Williams didn't go off. New England, Philly, Minnesota, they put up 27 all those games. And Mike Williams did not go off. So I don't think it's the offense that I'm overly worried about. I think it's a little bit of the defense and a little bit of just the flow out there. I think the offense is looking a little slower and a little bit more glitchy. I don't know the word for it, but they've been putting up good numbers. I mean, obviously they haven't been able to put up the 47 like they did against Cleveland. But besides that, Mike Williams down games have not resulted in. Oh, sorry, they put up 20 and 24. My bad, I misread it against last two. but still, like they put up 20 and 20 against Washington and Dallas, and Mike Williams was able to go off. So I don't think it's like that they're looking bad.
I think it is a little bit more. I just want to make because in those first, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, what they were 4-1.
Right.
They beat Washington. They lost to the Cowboys in a very close game where they looked on the same level as the Cowboys, who we both, I think, would agree are one of the best teams in the NFL.
Cowboys? They are
Yeah,
very
the
good.
Cowboys.
Cowboys are pretty good.
They beat the Chiefs, beat the Raiders, and then beat the Browns. I think all those teams are like talented teams. Offense looked really bad against the Ravens.
That is true. They looked so pitiful.
I think we would both say they're more talented than the Patriots. And they kind of struggled against the Eagles. If you watch that game.
Eagles have a good pass defense, though. So, like, it's
but
not.
I think we would both say that they are a way better team than the Eagles. Like, we expect them to beat teams. We think.
I don't think the Eagles are the team that I'm like, oh, this is a team that they should beat easily. Looking at their schedule, they don't have the Jets. They don't have the Dolphins. They don't have Jacksonville. They don't have, the Bears on this resume. Like, they've beaten good teams and they've lost to good teams, and they've, struggled against some like middle of the road teams. That's where I'm saying Justin Herbert hasn't looked like fantastic in these past couple weeks, but I think he can turn it around. Especially, I thought he was going to do it against Minnesota, but our defense was there to play. But
yeah, I guess my argument a little bit more of they were 4-1 when Mike Williams was playing a pretty big part in this offense, and they've lost 3 of the 4 since he has kind of fallen off the wall.
So weeks 1 and 2, where Mike Williams had 20-point games, Keenan Allen was the leading receiver both those weeks with over 100 receiving yards both times. Against Kansas City and Cleveland, obviously it was Williams of 122, 165. So I don't see a correlation between Mike Williams needing the ball and their offense struggling, since like they
I see a correlation between that and them winning.
They beat Washington.
I mean,
They beat Washington, which is a bad team. They lost to Dallas, which is a good team. They won Kansas City, who was struggling. They beat the Raiders, who are a bad team. They beat the Browns, who
I
are
don't think the Raiders are a bad team.
I think if we're gonna
they're over 500.
I mean, so are the
They were
Chargers.
5-2.
I think that the Chargers have more talent than the Raiders. I think if you look at,
I think the Chargers have more talent than the Eagles, but we can't like keep talking about this. I think it's the main point. We need to keep moving on, and I think it just goes to prove that Mike Williams, pretty polarizing player. Not many people are going to agree on what his outlook is going forward. I just think they need to involve him more to be better. Will they do that? Remains to be seen. Pat Freiermuth, I think, is a big play this week. Chargers are very susceptible to giving up yards to the tight ends. And they've been good against opposing fantasy wide receivers, allowing the 31st most fantasy points to them. So they need somebody else besides Deontay Johnson. And I think that it's going to be like he's going to be one of the top options in the receiving game with Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I like Pat Freiermuth. Very good and very big human being. He has 10 red zone targets on the year. So that's also a very encouraging number to see. I like it. If you're going to play Pat Freiermuth and you don't have Travis Kelce, I think besides Travis Kelce, so far he's the only guy who I think is untouchable at the tight end position. Everyone else, I think you can make a claim for by how they've been playing, that they don't necessarily need to be in there week in, week out. We saw Hawkinson put up duds. We saw Kittle put up duds. We saw Waller put up duds. We saw Andrews put up duds. I think you can find I think you can make an excuse to put Pat Freiermuth in your lineup, and I think he's a good tight end this week.
That is very bold. I didn't see that one coming. Although maybe I should have.
You should have. I mean, Pat Freiermuth, 16th tight end on the charts, but number one in the hearts of Pittsburgh fans. So,
And you?
no,
number two, probably.
Number two, Tyler Conklin, but Pat Freiermuth.
Although you didn't mention Tyler Conklin as your untouchables. So it was only Travis Kelce and Pat Freiermuth.
No, I didn't say Pat Freiermuth.
Pat Freiermuth is going to love this episode.
I hope he does. Maybe he'll sponsor it.
Anybody else that we can talk about from Sunday night?
Oh, no, I think we're good.
Cool. Monday Night Football, Giants at Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's kryptonite, the New York Giants.
That is true.
A lot of people, I think, would say, as the spread would suggest, a Tampa Bay blowout. But Tampa Bay has lost back-to-back games. Shocking loss to the Washington football team last week. What are we expecting from this Tampa Bay offense? Are we expecting the comeback? Are we expecting maybe another shocker back-to-back weeks?
I don't think so. Not predicting a loss to the Giants here, although it is Tom Brady's tonight. I think that was more Eli Manning than anything, with just that lovable face that Eli has. Gronk is back in the lineup, so obviously Brady's favorite target of all time is back on the field, makes the offense run smoother. You have Fournette, Evans, Godwin is, I believe, going to play. I believe he was limited today or limited Thursday. No idea about today, but I believe he's going to play. So I feel fine about it. I think Tampa Bay is going to turn it around. I have no worries about it.
Yeah, I agree. You're definitely not, especially after two back-to-back losses and it being the Giants and it being in prime time. I feel like this is a game that Brady and this offense could explode. Mm-hmm. I would be very excited about all of my Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week and trying to play as many of them as I could, including Gronkowski. Right. As for the Giants, Saquon potentially coming back for this game, seeming to be on the right trajectory for it. Now, he was only a couple games back, really getting the full work that we expect for Saquon to get when this ankle injury happened. Obviously, he tore his ACL last year, and that had him kind of them starting him off slow in the first couple weeks, really got unleashed in weeks 3 and 4, and then week 5, this ankle injury happens. What are your expectations for Saquon Barkley heading back into not the best matchup? Tampa Bay has fallen a little bit against opposing running backs. I believe that they are allowing the 10th least points now.
13th.
Where are they?
13th.
But they're still the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're still a little bit afraid of them, even though Vita Vea is also hurt, big run stuffer inside. What are you thinking for Saquon Barkley this week?
Double digits, low double digits. I'm projected between 8 to 12 points, so around that mark. If he does play, it's a risky one. So I'd take like a heavy look at your team since it is a Monday game. There is no like going back if if you're going to play Saquon, you have to feel so confident about it that he is going to play. Right trajectory is a good word to hear. But I don't know how much like faith you want to put into it. I kind of want to give it a week. Like I think you can put a guy in who's certain to play and feel a little bit more comfortable than like having it all come down to Monday night and then game time decision, Saquon sits, you lose your league by 3 points when you could have just started almost any other running back. So
yeah, the Monday night aspect of this definitely complicates things with not only Saquon, but a couple guys and
Right.
Sterling Shepard as well being a part of that. If I have Devontae Booker, I'm definitely playing Saquon. It's Saquon Barkley. Like, I don't think he needs a lot of plays to make an impact. If I said that I'm starting CEH if he plays, then I definitely have to say I'm starting Saquon Barkley if he plays.
Mm-hmm.
We know just how good Saquon is when healthy. So I'm definitely putting him out there if he is playing. Now, if I don't have Devontae Booker, that complicates things a lot. Now, also, a lot of people probably dropped Devontae Booker during the bye week, so he may be out there and a safety net if you have Saquon. It's a little tough if you do not have Devontae Booker to go with it, especially if we don't get an answer before the weekend. I would probably go against starting Saquon Barkley just to prevent what you said exactly of having it come down and just not having him feel ready and then potentially losing your week because you just don't have a running back.
Exactly.
I think that is it, unless you have any other comments for this one. Are you starting any of the Giants wide receivers, Kadarius Toney or Kenny Golladay?
No, I am not.
I would start Toney, especially if
Mhm.
Shepard is out. I would feel pretty good about starting Toney.
Mhm.
I think that is the only person that I am taking a chance on in this offense. And Sterling Shepard was to play. I wouldn't want to take the risk of waiting to see if that is the case. But if you have two Giants, if you have like a Toney and a Shepard, I would feel good playing Shepard if he is to play. That is it for the week 11 games. We are obviously, and every week, with our bold predictions for the weekend. Tony, do you have the bold predictions from last week?
I do. I do indeed, Kondo.
Okay.
Would you like to hear him?
Yes, we
Okay.
would. And what was the score heading into last week? I believe it was tied,
I
right?
believe we were tied 5-5.
5-5.
I believe. So last week, your predictions were Mike Evans being the number one fantasy scorer. He did not do that. It was close,
Correct.
but he did not. You also said Devin Singletary would be a top 5 running back on the week. He was not. Then you said Denver's defense, which I thought was interesting because it was a defense, would score 15 points. Denver scored 3, so kind of close, but not, not no New England defense that we saw from last night.
No,
So
unfortunately not.
you did happen to get a goose egg, but it was close, close indeed. I said Dawson Knox with a top 5 tight end week. He did not do that at all, so I was wrong. I also said Deontay Johnson would have a top 5 wide receiver week. He did not do that either. So 0 for 2 so far. But my shining star, pun intended, Dak Prescott. I said top 3 quarterback on the week. He finished as QB2, just behind Patty Mahomes, who dropped a 36-point bomb. So I was able to steal the lead with my diamond star, Dak Prescott.
With a wild 2 weeks, I was up
You were up big.
3-5. I might have been up 5-2 at one point.
I think you were up 5-2, and I've just been slowly.
You have made a ferocious comeback. I remember Darrell Henderson outside the top 15 was a big part of that.
That was a big one.
And I'm not going to hold that against you, obviously, because that was a very bold pick.
Thank you. Darrell Henderson, I believe, was like RB12 at the time.
And I said, I just want to
say.
say
20. And I said 20. I have it.
No, you said 15. You said 15.
Where is it? I'm looking
now.
now.
You did say 15. But I did say that a touchdown would make the difference, and it did.
That is true. But do you remember when? You remember what week that was? I don't remember.
I'm not quite sure. I would imagine it would be 2 weeks ago.
The 28th of October?
That doesn't matter as much right now. I can go first unless you have yours ready to roll.
So I do, and I feel weird about this, Kondo. So
Okay. Let's get weird.
full disclosure, made this bold prediction on Thursday. I like to do them on Thursday, and then if any injuries happen, I amend them. I said Hunter Henry would be outside top 10 tight end this week because he's tight end 4. And I said, I just need to throw a little shade on Hunter Henry, and he just put up a dud. So I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. So I also said
I don't
Darren
know
Waller.
if that one's that bold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's tight end 4. And I was like, so I said I'll put him in cahoots with Darren Waller, be a 2 for 1. They both have to be outside the top 10. Darren Waller also needs to get outside top 10 for this to happen.
Okay.
So Darren Waller and Hunter Henry, since I do these on Thursday when I make my bold predictions.
That is easy to say on a Friday, yes.
I mean, I think I said it 2 weeks ago when I did it and the guy was injured. I think I did it for Kamara. Or last week? Last week.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy to say Hunter Henry, bad week after. Did you say that on the show yesterday?
I don't know if we talked about it. Like I don't think I said anything on the New England game.
Interesting.
I think all we talked about was score prediction and Cordell Patterson if he was or wasn't going to play. Then we had a big debate about Wayne Gallman over Mike Davis over Stevenson, and I think that took up about 20 minutes of the time. And we just
Actually, I think the biggest debate of the show was about a little man. He's not that little. He's just a man in Philadelphia that goes by the name of Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is going to have over 15 points this week. He is projected for he's not projected for 4. He's projected for 10.2. I think that he goes pretty good amount over that. Me and Tony did make the bet separately that he would I said that he would outscore Mike Davis and Wayne Gallman. He doesn't need 15 to do that, but I do think
I said Mike Davis was what I put down on the paper. I will send you a picture if you'd like. I said Mike Davis.
Yes,
Mike Davis
you did say, but you did say Mike Davis, but then you also said you were starting Gallman over Mike Davis. So I figured that it would be either of them.
It was. I just said Davis over Sanders for the bet.
Gotcha.
Right.
But yeah,
I took both your people. That's why I did it.
Miles Sanders, 15 points in full point PPR.
That is not that bold, but I'll give it to you, Kondo.
I mean, it's 5 points more than the projection.
So if I go 5 points over or under a guy's projection, that's now considered bold?
I think it can be.
Okay.
Well, you did say that he was going to outscore. You said that Mike Davis was going to score more than him. So this is projecting 10 points more than Mike Davis.
Mike Davis got what, 5? Did he? What did he get?
So.
Mike Davis got 5.1. So technically,
yeah. So this is all.
It'd be 15.1 points, Kondo.
Okay. Well, I do that too. If you really want to nitpick about this.
Well, you said will get 10 points over. So 10 points over would be.
That's why I said nitpick about this.
It's not nitpick. It's what you said. It's just what you said, honey. It's okay.
Are you going to go?
Oh, I didn't know if it was my turn again. Cam Newton, top 5 quarterback on the week. Bold for a guy that you said you're starting Tua over.
Tua is projected for more than Cam Newton, actually.
Tua is actually projected to be number 5 on the week. So theoretically, Cam Newton would have to beat Tua.
Yes.
To make this happen for captain here.
I have a couple that I'm looking at here. And the question is, how bold do we want to get? How bold do we really feel on this Friday? I don't know that I feel that bold, but again, I think it goes back to how we started this show saying some days you're not going to feel the way you need to feel when you wake up, and sometimes you just got to grit through, and that's how we're going to do this, and we're going to get bold. My bold prediction is Darnell Mooney, who, according to some people, his quarterback is awful. He's wide receiver 36 on the year.
Mm-hmm.
He's trending in the right direction. He has double digits in 3 of the last 4. I think that he is going to be a top, I want to say 15 wide receiver. I don't know if that's bold enough for you.
Let me see. He got 20 points last week. I'm just pulling something up real quick. I'm gonna do
He did not
scoring.
get 20 points last week. That is true. False. Just want to throw that out there.
Darnell Mooney.
Correct.
What did he get last week?
He did not get anything.
Oh, he didn't play. Sorry, the week before. Last game he played, he got 20 points. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. 20 points last week would have got him wide receiver 8.
He had 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to have 2 touchdowns again.
No, you said he plays on an elite team. So
I think he's going to be. Who said he plays on an elite team?
You did. You said he has an elite quarterback.
I did not say that. That's at least when I say that you say things, I say the things you say.
You said
you just put words in my mouth.
You said Justin Fields is the best quarterback that you've seen. It's an elite quarterback.
I did not say that.
You said over Cam was the word you said.
I said I would start him over Cam this week. Yes, that's true.
I said Cam's going to finish as a top 5 quarterback. So, i.e., would be.
I said that Justin Fields is going to finish as top 5 quarterback the last 4 weeks. So
no, it's been 2, and you didn't even do it last week.
I think I did it last week. I don't know.
Wait, we just did your thing. It was Mike Evans, Devin Singletary, and the Denver defense.
Duh. Well, I changed it up. This is basically an interesting way of me saying Justin Fields is going to be a top 5 quarterback.
Wait, so Darnell Mooney
saying that Justin Fields is going to be a top 5 quarterback. Darnell Mooney, top 15 receiver.
Top 15 receiver. Got a good week to do it. Rams missing a week. I like his options. Who else is missing time this week? Who else is not?
Broncos.
Yeah, not
fucking
scary.
Broncos. I
do like a good Bronco. So I'm torn between my last 2 here, Kondo.
Okay.
I have a Mike Williams one, and I have a James Conner one.
I'm intrigued by both. I can pick 2 more if you need me to pick 2 more.
No, I like the idea of doing 3. I think it's a little bit more concise. 1, 2, 3. 3 strikes, 4. You're out. Right. 4 is just too many.
But what about 4 balls?
No, because we're pitching out here, Kondo. We're pitchers. We ain't no batters. We striking people out left, right, center. New York Yankees need to sign us. Okay.
They have a lot of money. They're looking to spend.
They do. I'm going to tell you both of them, and then I'm just going to talk it out to you, but it's really going to be in my head so I can decide which one I feel comfortable with. I said James Conner will have a top 3 running back week this week. And I feel like that's bold. And the Mike Williams one, I said he would be outside top 20, but since you're doing this 5-point buffer thing, I said all he has to do is score underneath 18 fantasy points because that's +5 where he's predicted.
What?
So I don't know which one I want to go with. For Miles Sanders,
you added outside of the top 20?
I said I don't know what I want to do, but I did.
Mike Williams has been outside the top 20 the last 4 weeks.
Mike Williams also is currently wide receiver 17.
Yeah, but he's not. He hasn't been inside the top 17.
Only wide receiver to put up 2 30-point weeks this year.
But he hasn't been close to the top 20 the last.
Ever since I started putting him into this bold take thing, I was wrong on him 1 week, and then he's been proving me right.
I have no idea if you're speaking English right now.
I was. If you couldn't hear it, then that's on you.
I can hear you. I just cannot understand it. I honestly feel like he's had more weeks outside of the top 20 than he's had in the top 20.
Potentially. He's still wide receiver 17, though.
Yeah, but I don't think it's bold to say a guy who has more weeks outside of the top 20 than in the top 20 is going to finish outside the top 20. Can we get
I
some
don't know.
feedback on that in the chat?
Sanders.
I would like to know. I think James Conner one is fine.
I like James Conner. If I do it, I'm going against my quarterback, so I don't want to go and do it just because I'd be rooting two separate things, watching the same team, watching the same game at the same time. Because I need Kyler to perform, and Kyler can't perform if James Conner drops another 30 bombs. So
Also, Mike Williams is projected for 12.7. Why does he have to score less than 18?
you said 15 for Sanders.
Yeah, because he's over. Because I'm expecting him to score over that. So that's like
Right.
more. So you would be expecting him to score 7 or less.
No, I'm doing the 5-point buffer that you
Well,
did.
that does not make sense.
Second
Pick
pick
expert
has
has spoken.
It's
Saying
tough.
you can't do Mike Williams.
You're
Not
gonna have to
me.
go because I don't think I can do James Conner now. Can't do it. I like James Conner too much to like put this bad juju on him when I'm watching the game. Like, how can I cheer for him if I'm half-heartedly cheering for Kyler at the same time? You're gonna have to go real quick while I recuperate here. Throwing through a
What
loop.
you need to do.
Yeah, throwing through a loop. I don't know.
The
I don't
pressure is really on too.
You're gonna have to go first, Kondo. I don't know what to do.
Well, that's not how this works. Now you're throwing me for a loop.
Good.
Just because you're unprepared, now I have to be prepared?
I was prepared. I had 2, and then, chat's saying I can't use it. So.
Well, I mean, you chose not to use one of them.
I just can't. I couldn't do it with good conscience. That's why I had to make so many.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. I'm going to double down on the Los Angeles game here. He will be Deontay Johnson. Oh, this tough. I think he scores. I think he's a top 12 wide receiver this week. I know you're scoffing at it. I mean, his last games have been pitiful in terms of he had 11 and 13. That's wide receiver 28 and wide receiver 30.
I'm not even arguing. You're arguing with yourself. I'm not
arguing. I'm just saying. I'm just defending your scoffs here.
I didn't say anything. I said all right. I think you're getting defensive now, buddy. I think you're taking my thoughts and you're like, oh, this wasn't a freaking good bold prediction. I have to go defend it before he even says it. I said, all right. Now, you do say that Deontay Johnson is a wide receiver 1 rest of the season. So it does make sense that he would put up wide receiver 1 numbers.
He has to start doing it sometime because he hasn't been doing it as of late.
But I'm going to take that one. I
mean, Deontay Johnson, his last game was 11 points, and then
I said all right.
The next one was 30.
You don't have to defend it.
You said stuff before it, so it's kind of like if you shoot someone and you're like, "Well,
I'm not shooting anybody."
No, you did.
I didn't. No, I did not. Let's not start framing each other.
I got you. You said I was a serial killer earlier on the show.
Well, the signs were pointing. There was evidence that pointed towards.
There's evidence
potentially being the whatever guy was. He's a Vikings fan. Who else was I supposed to guess?
Mike Williams has more 30-point games than Deontay Johnson has 20-point games. Let me just say that out there.
Okay.
Hunter Renfrow is actually outscoring Deontay Johnson past 2 weeks, I believe. So Deontay Johnson needs a week turned around. This is the positive reinforcement he needs to do it.
All right.
Oh my gosh, Hunter Renfrow's on a tear.
Yeah, he's been awesome. Yeah. He is awesome.
If only I called it earlier.
I was going to go with a bold one. And I think somebody has to carry the weight around here. I'll say it. Elijah Moore is going to be a wide receiver 1, top 12 wide receiver this week.
Elijah Moore?
Yes. I think we could all agree
I mean, hey, they're playing Miami, so real stout defense on the Miami side.
Actually,
of the
they just shut down the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, they are a very stout defense.
Okay, and the Jets beat the Tennessee Titans. So, like, I guess what you're saying is
So they're 16.
Jets must be the best team in all football then. So this really isn't that bold.
You said it.
That's like saying Tom Brady, top 12 quarterback on the week. Like, obviously, it's going to happen, Captain. Tom Brady's going to win some Super
Pittsburgh
Bowls.
Steelers beat the Buffalo Bills.
That he did.
Could argue they are.
I guess so.
Yep.
Who the Jets beat this year?
What was that?
I can take extra. Who have the Jets beat this year?
They beat the Titans. We just talked about that.
That's the only team they beat? That's tough. That's tough.
It was 25-0 yesterday. Neither of our projections were right. Foreman will be a top 20 running back this week. I was thinking about doing a Foreman take as well. I just wasn't sure what would be. I didn't feel great about him being a top 12, and I thought that top 24, I would get too much crap for that.
I thought about
Foreman. I put Elijah Moore 12, and I still got a good amount of backlash.
I mean, the team that dropped 30 on Indy.
Waddle will be a top 10 wide receiver this week. I think there's a possibility. And Fields will be a top 8 quarterback this week. Justin Fields, no one's ever said it on the show, but Justin Fields is the greatest quarterback ever to live. So I'm sure that will be used out of context as soon as we move on to our next episode, if it lasts that far. Gronk will be a top 5 tight end this week. I could see that as well. Pick one kicker. Greg the Leg, Boswell, and Suckup. This is your area of expertise, Cody.
Of course it is. I know all.
Well, you normally do the kicker waiver things.
I do kicker waiver every week.
I know. That's why I'm saying it's your area of expertise.
Give me Boswell. I don't think I've gave him any credit this year. Give me Boswell.
I like that you said, yeah, I just haven't talked about this guy, so I guess you got to take him. What are your thoughts on Tannehill this week? Tennessee, as we mentioned, is playing the Houston Texans. I'm avoiding Tannehill. I think that they are better quarterbacks that are going to have to throw the ball a bit more. Mm-hmm. It's just disappointing, I feel, so far this year, so I'm trying to avoid him.
Yeah, you don't need to start Tannehill this week. Go pick up Cam Newton. I think he's available in almost every league.
Cody, this one's for you.
What sports do you bet on? Football. I'm trying to get into baseball or basketball. Just it's so tough. I haven't watched any games yet this year. So just those two.
This was on my Elijah Moore take. Won't happen. I watched too many Jets games to think this will happen, and the Finns are on a good win streak.
So just something to say about the Jets real quick. I think it's a tale of the bye week so far.
Okay.
Before the bye week, the most points that they allowed was 27. Since the bye week, they allowed 54 to New England. I think a team that we both agree, not the most potent offense out there. Let up 54 points to them. Only 31 to Cincinnati. They were able to stop Cincinnati, beat the Reds. Booyah. They let up 45 to Indy and Buffalo. So Jets are just on a tail of two defenses here. I'm really hoping that they can turn around for you. Second take extra. I think the bye week was more of a curse. Like the Madden curse, it was the bye week curse for the Jets. That's on you.
Yeah, I mean, their offense, we'll see if they can get moving with
their offense
an elite quarterback. And that's really all that matters for that bet and getting me back on top, hopefully. Justin Fields is the best rookie quarterback in the draft. It's interesting. Personally, I don't know if I actually agree with that, but for the sake of just what the show has been for the last few weeks, I'm going to say, yeah, by a mile.
Since I'm going to allow real real advice here. No, he hasn't been.
Well, it's not that he hasn't been; it's that he is.
No, he's not.
All right. I got to buy. I can't trust Cam. I'd rather have Tannehill, in my opinion. Buy. Interesting. Is that mean for like the rest of the season? What do we think about? No, it said Tannehill this week. I was interesting. Offense has been decent for the Jets. We'll see if they can keep it up. I hope they can for the sake of these bold predictions. Hopefully there will be a lot of offense this week. Want to say thank you for everyone watching, whether you are watching live, recorded, or listening to us on the podcast platform of your choice. That's what Second Take Extra was talking about. Has Stafford on bye and is going to start Ryan Tannehill. I would rather take like a Tua, I think. But, I mean, I don't think Tannehill is going to lose you your week. I just don't think he has the upside of some other guys out there. That's what I would say. I think you would tend to agree with that.
Ryan Tannehill is not the guy that I feel like you must start this week.
Interesting. Yeah, Tua and Cam are out there. Obviously, I think our opinions on who we would take are differing, but
I think you don't go wrong with either of them. I'm just kind of rooting for Cam to have a better week, but I think both guys are going to produce a good fantasy week for you.
Fair. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching and supporting through all this. We've been doing this for a while now, so we always appreciate all the interaction and support. And best of luck in your matchups this weekend. I'm stalling to see if there are any last-second questions. And we will talk to you next week.
See you all then.